Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so happy that you're here joining me again today. So this video, I'm going to be talking about my personal experience with wet wraps. In case you've not seen my YouTube channel before and you don't know who I am, my name is Trudy and I am the founder of Deeper Than Eczema. So as well as a YouTube channel, I also have a blog which you'll be able to access in the description, and also you can have a look at my social media channels as well. So before I get started, just a little disclaimer, just to say that I'm not a medical professional. I strongly recommend that you do your research and seek medical advice before starting this treatment. And what I say on here is basically my own personal experience. What may work for me may not work for you, and vice versa, because we're all unique and we're all different. So just a little disclaimer there. Okay, so let's get started talking about wet wraps. So basically, wet wraps is used for acute eczema and it's a short-term treatment. And basically what it involves is basically there's two types of bandages. So there's a wet bandage which goes around the skin, which is white and it's a bit like a paste. And then after that, a dry bandage goes around the skin as well. So before you apply the bandages on, you may be told something slightly different depending on what your dermatologist or your doctor actually says. But what I personally did based on my experience and the advice that I was given was I used a topical steroid cream initially. So that went onto the skin. I let that settle for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then a thick ointment was then put on after that. So I personally used Epiderm. So that basically was applied onto the skin. The eczema that I had at the time, which I still do, is on my lower legs. So basically from just above the toes really, all the way up to my knee, the bandages was actually applied. So obviously without the bandage, and I'm unable to lift my leg to the camera, it's quite tricky to do a demonstration. So I'm just going to put on my arm, just typically like that, just to give you a quick demonstration. So basically what I more or less did was, say for example I was to use the arm, so the steroid cream would go on, wait for a few minutes, and then the epiderm would then go on afterwards. And then the wet bandages, which is like a tubular bandage basically, I think is what it's called, is then wrapped around the arm. You may be told differently on how to actually wrap it round depending on the nurse or the doctor or the dermatologist that you have. So you may be told something slightly different, and also it depends on where it is on your skin as well. So once the wet bandages goes on, the dry one then basically goes around and it wraps around after. And what happens is basically that stays on overnight. So what I used to do personally was shower in the evening, and then it went onto my legs. So I wrapped the bandages on my legs. I then left that on overnight, and then in the morning it will just come off. And it is recommended actually not to leave it on for too long, so several hours or overnight, because once the moisture looks into the skin and it dries out, it's actually best for the bandage to come off just to avoid discomfort. So I did this treatment back in 2012, which actually did improve my skin to a great extent actually. Once doing it, it basically cleared everything up. Well, most of the skin it actually cleared up, and I just had a few dark patches. So it actually did work out quite well actually. And I think I did the same process again in 2018 because I had a major flare-up in 2015 due to a stressful experience. So then I had to obviously go through the process again. And it worked successfully more the first time round than the second time. But overall, it was quite a positive experience. And, the skin stayed moist and I managed to get a lot out of that. So my experience from that is actually a positive one. So that's basically my story and my experience there. One thing I will say is that it's probably, in terms of the time of year when best to do it, from personal experience, it's probably better to do in the winter than in the summer, because the skin tends to dry out more in the winter anyway, and in the summer it's already warm and you're most likely to obviously sweat, and it's most likely to be more uncomfortable in the summer months. So something probably more ideal to do in the winter rather than the summer. A healthcare professional may say something different. That's just my personal view there. And one final thing, which you will see when you do your research, and one thing I was also told when I was going through this treatment is not ideal if your skin is currently infected, weeping, or if it's cracked, because obviously moisture will go in and it will make the infection worse. So this is not an ideal treatment to do if your skin currently is infected. So there's my story, which is quite positive. So that's my experience. Thank you very much for watching this video about my story and my experience with wet bandages. Just to say that I've not had to do this again for about 5 years. So for the last 5 years, I've not had to do it, which is quite good. So I'm quite happy about that. Thanks again for watching this video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you visit my blog as well and subscribe to that, you'll also be able to download a free eczema tracker for you to use. And if you don't have eczema yourself, but you know somebody who has, forward this link on, because it might be able to help them. Thank you once again for coming across this video and watching. I look forward to seeing you in future videos, and I will be talking more about more experiences with eczema treatments that I've had. Take care, stay blessed.